So, your players think they're tough, right? They've got their fancy holy adventures, their perfectly optimized builds, they've got their spell lists down cold, and they strut into your combats without a single drop of fear. And they see a troll on the map and think, all right, break out the torches and the acid and this will be over in 2 rounds. They're comfortable, they're complacent, and they're way too confident. And today we're going to fix that. Hello adventurers, welcome back to the Red Calls. My name is Ryan, and today we are continuing the series The Really Quick Maps, in which we discuss how to create monster lairs and map them in my little black book here, and go through each of the individual monsters that we love from Dungeons & Dragons and other TTRPGs, talk about how to use their skills and abilities and lore in such a way that you can challenge your players and make combat a little bit more interesting by using the environment and the lore together to create challenging monster dungeons. So as we said today, we're going to be looking at trolls. I'm going to show you how to design a troll lair that isn't just another room on the map. It's a tactical nightmare that's meant to strip them of their resources and their confidence, one terrifying step at a time. We're not just putting a monster in a room, we're building a living, breathing death trap, a gauntlet of pure terror that your players will be talking about for sessions after. This is the lair that your players will never survive. Because the goal here isn't just to challenge them, the goal is to make them feel, maybe for the first time in a long time, that they are deep in enemy territory, that the very ground that they walk on is hostile, and that the monster that they're hunting is already 10 steps ahead of them. We're going to build this lair, layer by painful layer, and in the end, we'll have a blueprint for turning any old monster lair into a formidable battleground. Because how often do players already know going in that they are better than the monsters that they're fighting? They can quote the stats in the monster manual. They can talk about how their intelligence is better than the intelligence of the monsters they're fighting. They're going to just do a broad perception check or investigation for traps and hope that they can leave it there. But the point of playing a game is that you don't always know what is going to happen. Creating a perfectly optimized character in which you can do these broad sweeping things that take away actually playing the game is counterproductive. You want your players to have to think in order to be challenged so that their victories actually feel like victories, so they don't just stroll in and rely on the numbers to do the work for them. So how can we do that? Well, let's talk about it. All right, let's build this lair. I'm going to take out my handy dandy monster lair book. I'm going to open it up to a blank page and get my pens out and ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to go chamber by chamber. I'm going to talk about the specific challenges that we're going to be creating, but more than that, the overarching theory that we want to be embracing here. This isn't me creating a lair for you. This is me using this as a blueprint to talk about the ideas that I use to create my own lairs so that you can make your own in future. Better to teach someone to fish, right? So, let's start on the Bleeding Mire. Before we lay a single trap or dig one pit, we have to ask the most important question. Why is the lair so nasty? And the answer is in the monster's story. A good lair is just an extension of the creature that's living in it. It should show off its lore and its smarts and how it uses its environment. And for this, we're not just using any old troll, we're going to make a troll specifically for it, the troll of the Bleeding Mire. So, the Bleeding Mire is a cursed swamp, a place where the water runs like rusty, thick blood, and the air is heavy with the smell of rot and old magic. And in my adventure for this particular location, the lore is that deep inside the mire there's a fallen artifact, something that was once pure but is now corrupted, and we'll call it the Heartstone. And this thing has poisoned the land, and our troll is a direct product of that poison. It's not just some dumb brute, it is a cunning survivor that has adapted to its toxic, hostile home that's been augmented by the magic that corrupted the environment to make it better than the average troll, so that the stats that your players may have memorized are not so useful to them anymore. It's not just waiting in a cave for a fight, it is a territorial predator that has weaponized its own backyard against anyone dumb enough to trespass. And that story is the foundation for everything. For the whole lore, for the special abilities, for the environment that it's using, you've got to start with a story like that when you're creating an environment. Don't just think about what the general population of any creature is going to be able to do. Take kobolds, for instance, which we did a few episodes before, which have an average intelligence in Dungeons & Dragons 5e of about 8, which is, a little bit lower than the average human. But that is the average human and the average kobold. Just as humans' intelligence can range up to 18 or even higher, makes sense that kobolds will be able to as well. And why not, under certain specific instances, why not have a troll also be that interesting? And thinking about the story first makes the encounter so much better. Is the troll a willing guardian of the Heartstone, or is it a victim, which is twisted by the artifact's magic? Maybe clever players could find a way to cleanse the Heartstone, weakening the troll or even changing it back, offering a non-combat solution. But for anyone who just comes in swinging, this troll is ready to show them what a real monster lair feels like. The party's first mistake is thinking that the lair starts at the cave mouth, and it doesn't. The lair begins the second they step into the muddy, overgrown path leading into the heart of the Bleeding Mire. The air gets thick, humid, and foul. The ground itself is a hazard. This isn't just difficult terrain, it's treacherous. I'd make them all roll intermittent DC 12 or 13 dex saving throws to get through the slick, root-choked mud. Fail, and you slip and fall prone, immediately putting you in a bad spot. But the real trap here is that the troll has an alarm system. The path is dotted with murky, scum-covered pools, and hiding just under the surface are the troll's lookouts, a few giant toads. And these aren't just random swamp monsters, they're a key part of, possibly without even being aware of it, the lair's security. Just like having guard dogs or guard geese in ancient Rome, the giant toads are there because the environment is good for them, but also because it benefits the troll. They will kick up a racket as soon as anything enters their immediate territory. They're very territorial in that way. And just the noise of the giant toad is enough to let the troll know that someone is approaching. It's not a trap, it's not a tripwire, it's not a pressure plate. A perception check isn't going to cut it. They have to take the toads out as quickly as possible. It's a time crunch for the players. Because the toads themselves are more than just an alarm. While that's the main function of them for the troll, they are an active threat that's meant to slow the party down and pick off the squishies. Their sticky tongues can snatch a spellcaster from 30 feet away and drag them into the muddy water, pulling them away from the party's frontline fighters. This forces the players to make a tough call right away. Do they push forward and risk their wizard getting swallowed? Do they stop and fight the toads, making a ton of noise and giving the troll even more time to set up the real horrors waiting for them? This opening encounter immediately sets that tone. There's no safe way in. The environment is hostile and it's working with the monster. I've said it before and I will say it again. A lair should be an extension of the monster. It doesn't make sense for them not to have thought out why they've chosen that location as their lair. It has to be a location that makes them safe, that plays to their strengths, that uses their abilities to its advantage. After dealing with the toads, the party will probably push deeper, feeling a little proud of themselves, and that feeling's about to die because they enter a cavern choked with all kinds of fungi. The whole area is lit by an eerie, shifting, multicolored glow from massive bioluminescent mushrooms. The air is thick with floating spores, creating a hazy, dreamlike vibe that should put every single player on edge. And this isn't just about decoration. The idea is that you're creating an environment that works with and for the troll. It's a hostile environment for the players, but it's something that works to the strengths of the creature that lives there. I would scatter a few types of dangerous fungi around. First, the shriekers tucked away in strategic corners. Again, another alarm system. If the party gets too close or shines a bright light, the shriekers let out an ear-splitting scream, once again telling the troll exactly where the party is. And secondly, those beautiful glowing mushrooms, a lot of them are violet fungi, ready to lash out at anyone who gets within 10 feet. But the main event is the spore clouds. Whenever a character moves too fast, or when there's a big impact like a spell or a heavy weapon swing, a patch of smaller fungi bursts, puffing out a cloud of toxic spores in a 10-foot radius. Anyone caught in it has to make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw, and on a failure, they could be poisoned for an hour. Or if you want to be extra mean, they could start hallucinating, seeing their allies as monsters or for a round or two. Or you could just give them ambient poison damage. As they walk through, they make a con save, and take poison damage, half on a success. And if you're talking about something small like 1 or 2d4, then that's not anything that the troll really needs to worry about. Its natural healing factor would mean that that's not a problem to it, but it is a problem to the players. The poison condition is a lot more crippling, but if you wanted to make it a little bit more accessible for other players and you want to have it make a bit more sense for the troll, then you can have that as well. And of course, because it's the troll's home turf, it knows the safe way through. It can move through the garden without setting off a single spore. It might even be hiding in there, using the fungal forest for cover. It can shove players into spore clouds or grapple someone and drag them right next to a violet fungus. The environment doesn't just hurt the players, it actively helps the troll fight. It also forces the players to slow down and be careful. They can't just charge in. They have to test the ground, think about every move, and burn resources like spells or healing just to get through the room. They're being bled, one saving throw at a time. So then we get to a classic of any troll combat. You get to the bridge. And having survived the toxic garden, the party hears the sound of rushing liquid up ahead. They find a wide chasm, maybe 20-25 feet across, longer if you've got a higher level party, and a single rickety looking bridge made of rotting mossy wood spans the gap. Below isn't water, it's a thick, bubbling, steaming sludge, that mire rush, the same sort of reddish goo that's found throughout the mire and symbolizes the degradation of the natural environment, that corruption that allowed the troll to come here and live here. And again, it's part of the story and part of the environment, but we'll get to that in a second. The bridge itself is a trap. It's meant to look unstable, but the real danger is that the troll can control it. Certain planks aren't just loose, they're rigged. And as the party crosses, the troll, who could be hiding underneath the chasm, pulls a vine. The whole section of the bridge drops out. I'd have anyone on that section make a DC 15 Dex saving throw to jump to safety. And again, this is a trap that your players can see coming. If they want to investigate it, they might be able to see it. The troll, depending on how you characterize it, might be less intelligent than your players and only able to make a trap of a certain level of intelligence. But the fact that that is the only way of crossing a fairly wide gap means that the players will have to risk the trap anyway. You can't cross the chasm without crossing the bridge unless you want to wade through the mire rush, and that's their own choice. If they fall into the mire rush below. And this isn't just, say, 3d6 bludgeoning damage from the fall. The real horror is the sludge itself. It's thick, it's hot. Anyone who falls in takes acid damage every round that they're in it, and they're restrained by the goo, making them a sitting duck. Climbing out requires DC 15 athletics check, which is super hard to make while you're being boiled alive. And this bridge is all about controlling the battlefield. The troll can use it to split the party, leaving half of them on one side while it deals with the poor schmuck who fell in. It might use its multi-attack on the characters still on the bridge, trying to shove them off. Remember, trolls aren't dumb, they are cunning. They will use their environment for every possible advantage. And this choke point puts the party in a terrible spot. Do they cross one by one? Do they look for another way around and waste time? Do they use a precious fly spell only to get pelted by the trolls thrown rocks from the other side? Every choice is a bad one. That's the whole point. This next room is the ultimate example of the troll's elemental warfare. And it's the best example that we have of the fact that creatures will know what they are weak to. A troll is not left in the dark about the fact that it is vulnerable when it is exposed to fire or acid. If it is burned by either of those things, it can't regenerate hit points at the start of its turn. It knows that. The Mire Rush could just be as toxic to it as it is to the players, or you could alter the damage from the Mire Rush so that you negate that particular problem. But in this area, we want to address that weakness. We want to turn it into a vulnerability for the players. And how do we do that? Well, the party walks into a large, steamy cavern full of bubbling pools of hot mud. The air stinks of sulfur and something else, something flammable. This whole area is filled with pockets of natural, highly explosive swamp gas. Any open flame, a torch, a lantern, a firebolt, a burning hand spell is a potential disaster. If the fire spell is cast, or if a torch gets within 5 feet of a gas pocket, the gas ignites in a huge explosion. Everyone in a 20-foot radius has to make a DC 16 Dex saving throw, taking something like 8d6 fire damage on a fail, half on a success. Same as a fireball spell. But the damage, the explosion happens as soon as the flame is exposed to the gas pocket. So if the party is standing within the gas pocket, then it explodes. The troll will know where the gas is. It has keen smell, so it will be able to avoid those pockets and manipulate the party so that they stand within them. And a certain perception check will allow the party to be aware that there's a faint, acrid or heavy smell in the air that gives away the fact that there is gas there. Although if they haven't been exposed to marsh gas before, if they're not a chemist or a scholar of some kind, or even a miner in a previous life, they might not know what that actually means. And they'll find out soon enough. Because that's the genius part of this area in the lair. The troll knows that fire will explode the gas. It fears fire more than anything. Fire is the one thing that can permanently stop its regeneration. So it has to turn its greatest weakness into a weapon. The troll itself will never use fire here. It baits the party into doing it for them. Picture it. The troll shows up, charges the party's fighter, starts beating him down. The wizard in the back, knowing trolls are weak to fire, does exactly what they've been trained to do. Unaware of the thick smell across their nose, they failed their perception check, they cast Firebolt. And in that one moment, that entire corner of the room erupts into flame. The wizard, the sorcerer, the monk, all take massive fire damage. And even if the troll is kept within it, it has a massive pool of hit points. If it's managed to regenerate since the last time, and it should be using hit and run tactics to make greatest effect of its regeneration, then it's going to be able to absorb the blast, while a weak wizard or sorcerer is not going to be as lucky. And even being aware of the risks, if the troll is spiteful and it's enraged, it can grapple a character and drag them right on top of a gas pocket, daring the other players to risk blowing up their friend. It'll use its movement to weave between safe zones, knowing exactly where the gas is the thickest. It can even use lair actions here, causing a new fissure to open up, vent a fresh cloud of flammable gas right into the party's formation. And this room can completely flip the script. I've even got pools of warmed sludge here, and it could be the same kind of hot sludge that the party encountered in the Mire Rush, which is deadly to them and to the troll, in which case the troll can push them because its strength is so much greater than what the party probably will have at this point in their campaign. Or it could just be regular hot water, which is bad news for anyone wearing plate armor, but great news for something that is weak to fire or water. It can jump straight in while a gas pocket ignites. And if the party somehow makes it through the explosive pools, they can finally then reach the heart of the lair, the troll's den. It's not some grand throne room. Trolls don't really have the necessary intelligence to make themselves a kingdom. They have this sort of brutal cunning, but they don't have the planning necessary to cow a large group of people. Or perhaps do they, if this is a specifically intelligent or capable troll. But in this case, what I'm imagining is that it is a den. This is bestial and cunning. It's not particularly intelligent, but it is aware of its environment and it works very closely with it. Its keen senses of smell and its regeneration have allowed it to live for not only a long time, but also while gathering a lot of intelligence about the world, learning more and more, even in its limited capacity. So this is the heart. This is where it is safest. This is where it has lived for a long time and gathered any number of trophies, any number of weapons or environmental assets that will keep it safe if something does pursue it all the way here. And what's more, I have designed the room so that it's only on one side of the Mire Rush. That gap may be something like 20 feet across, far too far for a party member to jump across, although a fly spell might help them here. But the troll, using a long pole to vault across it, will be able to escape if things get rough enough. And it might return later on, allowing the party to set up a trap. But again, the troll's tactic is to use its regeneration. It is an absolute tank, the likes of which the party will never be able to replicate. Healing on every turn, vulnerable only to fire or acid damage, is incredible, especially when its hit point pool is so much larger. And if it is intelligent enough to use weapons or armor or magical artifacts, the environment to its advantage, then that makes it that much more of a challenge to the party. The final battle shouldn't be a static toe-to-toe brawl. The troll uses hit and run tactics. It'll burst from a hidden tunnel, smash the nearest character with its multi-attack, then duck back into the darkness before the party can fully react. It'll use the terrain to its advantage, grabbing a hero, dragging them towards the pit below or the slick, muddy slope of the Mire Rush. And you can get lair actions here. Use them when you're going into a lair. They're there for a reason. On initiative count 20, the troll can make the lair itself attack. For example, it can make the ceiling collapse. A person has to make a dex save or take bludgeoning damage or get knocked prone and restrained by the rubble. It could have grasping roots. Because the magic of the environment is alive and responds to the troll, they can restrain the characters themselves or against a strength save. You could have noxious gas, again, like in the room before, continuing to blow it up or poisoning the characters. The troll is relentless. It will fight until it's badly hurt and then flee, only to come back as soon as it's healed from a different direction, ready for round 2. The only way to win is to control the environment, maybe by blocking tunnels, figuring out how to spoil its regeneration pools. The fight is a desperate, dynamic struggle for survival, where the lair is just as much of an enemy as the troll itself. And if you're getting some good ideas from this and you want to build more devious dungeons and truly terrifying encounters that will challenge your players, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It helps me a ton. It helps this video get out to more and more people. Hit that like button so we can share it with more and more D&D players and DMs so that they can think their way through their games as well. So what did we do here? We didn't just put a troll in a swamp. We built a complete death trap by following a few core principles that you can apply to any monster and any lair. Firstly, we started with a story. We had an idea of what the environment was and how it altered the original stat block that we're using. A troll is, in and of itself, a formidable foe for early level parties. But to make it a foe for higher level parties, we need to think through how it can be changed, how it can adapt and learn. So this troll has been adapted by its environment. It's been made older and stronger and more cunning. And that's great. We can absolutely use that. Because the second part of making a lair like this is using the cunning and age of the troll. It knows what it is weak to and it knows what it is strong with. So it has adapted its environment in order to use those strengths. An alarm system to let people know that it's coming. It uses its regeneration and hit and run tactics. It uses toxic environments that it can easily heal from and the party will not be able to. It is aware that its strength is in how it can outlast its enemy. It is a pursuit predator if it is a predator. And if it's cornered in its own home, that's just going to make it more vicious. Use the environment. It is so much stronger than the players are and so much more tough. You can use that, and so can it. Because the third part is thinking through that sort of tactical synergy. Making it all come together in a way that makes sense. You have a hostile environment, you have some lore, how do you bring them together? Think about the fact that it is a poisonous mire, a fen, a bog, a swamp in which the troll lives. You're going to be using themes of poison, marsh gas, hot mud, creating a place that is dangerous to the players and not dangerous to the troll. And by thinking through what that means and using the environment and the stat block of the troll together, you can create a challenge that is not only challenging, but also makes sense in the world, that doesn't break that idea of immersion that the players are going to be enjoying. When you think this way, you move beyond just designing a fight. You start creating experiences. You create challenges that test your players' creativity, resourcefulness, and courage. And they're not just numbers on a character sheet. So thank you for watching. We have this map of the Bleeding Mire already and waiting to be run for our players. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How would you alter the lair to make best use of a troll stat block? What kind of situation would you have higher level players come to fight or face a troll, and how would you make it tougher using an awareness of the world? Because that's without even going into what items it can use. It's awareness of magic. One of the things that I discussed earlier and didn't broach upon is the fact that the Heartstone, which caused the cursed mire to exist, is actually in this cave. The players can find it and perhaps, consecrate it again, making the mire a less hostile environment for them, but perhaps that's also something that can benefit the troll if it's aware of it. How does it use a knowledge that is gathered over time in a way that the players will have to adapt very quickly to? That's what we're going for here. That's what makes the game fun. We're not about numbers, we're about creative thinking. So Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time in the next episode of Really Quick Maps. The troll will know where the gas is because it can smell it. It has, keen senses. I shouldn't doubt myself. It absolutely has keen smell. All right. The troll will know where the gas is. It has...